Counter-Strike is old, and so are its exploits. Since the beginning of Counter-Strike, gamers were already trying to find ways to break it. Even back in 1999, when Counter-Strike released as a mod for Half-Life, people were getting out of CS Mansion and wandering the Skybox. This trend of players seeking any possible micro-advantage continued throughout Counter-Strike's lifecycle. In Half-Life and CS 1.6, many advanced movement players and speedrunners had already harnessed the ability to JumpBug. In these games, the JumpBug was only used to negate fall damage, as the JumpBug didn't give extra height like it does in CSGO and CS2. Now, knowing all this, it shouldn't surprise you that the so-called JumpBug exploit was not just discovered, but it was already being widely used months after CSGO's release. And for Counter-Strike's most dedicated movement players, they had something incredible. One of their most favorite exploits just got even better. The jump bugs that they came to know and love not only prevented fall damage like Half-Life and 1.6, they gave you an insane jump height, making it possible to clear absurd distances on vanilla settings. Now what's quite interesting to me is how consistent jump bugs were throughout CSGO's lifetime. I mean, take this for example. From the 2013 version of Nuke to the 2023 version of Nuke when the game closed, literally 10 years of the map's existence, the entire time the map was in the game, you could crouch Bhop off of this rafter and jump bug the entire site below it. The map literally had an entire visual overhaul and had a ton of minor tweaks throughout its entire lifetime, but the entire time that this map was up on CSGO, you could do this jump bug. And you can even do this very same jump bug on CS2, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Now it definitely took a while, but by mid-2021, many movement players were incorporating jump bugs into their movement routes. And one of the most infamous jump bug tricks in all of Counter-Strike happens to sit in Sniper's Nest. Many players had mastered this area as it soon turned into a contest to see who could perform the most shenanigans inside of this room. And this is probably where one of Counter-Strike's most infamous jump bugs comes into focus. And to even understand it, you're gonna have to understand another crazy exploit called the Pixel Surf. In CSGO, if you could get yourself really close to a wall at a specific height, you could slide above the texture, and it would appear like you're flying. And it just so happens that you can get this specific height by jumping off of this table and hitting your head on the ceiling, and then crouching. And this texture just so happens to end at the perfect height, so that you can Bhop and it sets you up for a 100% consistent jump bug. This route was so consistent that people who had no clue what they were doing were flying through Sniper's Nest like never before. All you had to do was hit 2 perfect Bhops and you were sent flying across the room at maximum speed. But other than small discoveries like this, jump bugs remained the same. Until CS2 came out. But before I talk about CS2, this video is sponsored by Skin Club, one of the highest rated Counter-Strike casinos. Skin.Club has all of your favorite game modes like custom cases, case battles, and an upgrader. Skin.Club is currently running a pick'em event for the Austin Major. There's a lot of free awards that you can get on Skin Club, so go on over and make your picks for the Austin Major. You don't need to deposit on Skin Club, you can just tune into the site every day and see if you get any free rewards. If you enjoy yourself on Skin Club and find yourself depositing, make sure that you're doing it through the link in the description, just so that I can get as much money out of it as possible. I'm gonna try to make Skin Club a longer term sponsor, so if you gamble, make sure you're doing it on Skin Club. But anyways, back to how CS2 changed jump bugs. Well, in March of 2023, when CS2 released as a limited test, players quickly realized that their beloved jump bug exploit was missing. But many players quickly discovered that you could get absurd height if you jumped off of something while you were already going up. This exploit was deemed the ledge grab, and it was assumed that it would be quickly patched. But nobody could have predicted the patch that we ended up getting. On August 2nd, only 2 months before the game fully released, Valve removed the ledge grab exploit and added jump bugs back into CS2. It was a long, arduous journey involving the movement community contacting Launders directly, and then Launders contacting the CS2 devs himself. I have a whole video about it linked in the description, but long story short, players got their jump bug back and they were excited to start testing it. And at first, the community noticed that Subtick allowed them to jump bug anywhere regardless of height, which wasn't possible on CSGO. Jump bugs have been tweaked a lot by the developers since they were first added into CS2. They used to have a random height and it would vary between 58 and 60 units. These jump bug heights would make it possible for them to do jumps that weren't possible on CSGO. Valve were actually busy changing how jump bugs work as late as November of 2024. And it was in an update where Valve tried to address the random jump height, and they did so just by making the normal jump just a little bit higher. This minuscule change literally changed everything about jump bugs as we knew it in CS2, because all the heights that were consistent for jump bugs got changed in an instant. This basically changed which heights you could consistently jump bug from. For example, you used to be able to normally jump off the top of silo here and then jump bug off of the box, but on the newest update, you can't normally jump and jump bug here. you now have to long jump and then B-hop to get the right height to JumpBug off of this box. But this update wasn't all bad, as it did add some jump bugs that weren't possible before into the game. For myself, I had this route that I had tried doing on the update before it, and it obviously was not possible. But once this update came out, I could actually do it, and it was even consistent. But anyways guys, that is my brief history of jump bugs on CS2. My hope with this video is that you now understand why Valve will basically never remove such an integral exploit from their game. With Valve going out of their way to literally add this exploit back into the game multiple times, we can be absolutely assured that they definitely want this in the game. And this is the kind of developer that I love supporting. Obviously, they released CS2 and replaced one of my favorite games with questionable garbage, but they kept one of my favorite things, which is this exploit. I think it's also worth noting that in CS2's trailer, they say that whatever you've learned in Counter-Strike Go will transfer over to CS2. And them ensuring that the smallest exploits get ported over one-to-one is basically proof of that. A lot of people say, or maybe they just assume, that Valve dislikes these movement players and exploiters. But in reality, Valve understands that these players are an integral part to the game's ecosystem. If Valve didn't have thousands of people stress testing their game and pushing it to the absolute limits, we probably wouldn't know about some of the game's most basic exploits. And if that was the case, they might only be found by maybe 5 or 6 people, and then those people would stay quiet, and then they would just be using it in their matchmaking games, killing you from under the floor. And instead of it getting patched out within a week, it wouldn't be patched out ever, because it was only happening in their games. That's just an example of what would happen if people really weren't pushing Counter-Strike to its limits in every single update. Now, I know as a casual player, it might be a little bit upsetting to see the game get destroyed every single time they add new maps, but I do think it would be far, far worse if people weren't screaming about exploits from the rooftops, asking for Valve to fix them. Even if you look at some of the most recent patch notes for CS2, it's basically all patch notes related to one exploit that this guy on Reddit discovered that's making the shooting feel a little bit weird in CS2. So what I'm saying here is, if we didn't have people obsessing over the most minute details of the game, trying to make the game be as similar to CSGO as possible, the game would probably still feel like it did a year ago, completely dogshit. But after a year of community support and a ton of updates from Valve, the game actually feels kind of playable. And this could be what's giving Valve the motivation to set up CS2's anti-cheat so precariously. But all these tangents aside, this is why I think Valve actually fully understands the value of these players to the game's ecosystem. But anyways guys, the overarching point of this video is to teach you how jump bugs came to be in CS2 and why Valve will probably never remove them from the game. But anyways, if you guys want to learn how to jump bug, you can check out the previous video in the series. And if you guys want to learn how we got the movement config that we have right now, you can check out this video that's almost a year old now. But ironically, it is still up to date because Valve hasn't patched this config after almost a year. Shout out Valve. You know, like, at least they know what not to patch, right? Like, that's good. Later.